Hey everyone, this is Friedel Hagaraja Raven. I'm here with my recap review of Three Pines, season number 1, episode number 2. Now, this is a continuation of the case that Armand was working on in the first episode, and I have to say that I wasn't actually expecting the writers to solve the CC case in like 2 episodes. I really thought it was going to take 3 or 4 more episodes, especially because in the previous episode we saw Armand basically being suspicious of every person in the Three Pines community, but you know what? It is what it is. As far as the overall storytelling is concerned, this was a very, very hard-hitting episode, especially when it came to exploring the mother-daughter dynamic, and especially when it comes to that particular storyline concerning Blue to River. Like, that was very, very, very emotional. So the episode opens up with this shot of a very old woman. She's just laying in bed and she's coughing, and we get to see that on her arm she has the words BKLM written on them. Beklum. I was like, while I was watching this episode, I was like, Beklum. Become. Oh. But then we get to see Cece coming in, and yeah, Cece just decided to basically suffocate her mom to that, I guess. Yeah, her mom to that, and we know that someone saw Cece do all of that, and we get that reveal later down in the episode. So the flashback that we saw, that occurred a year ago, and in the present timeline, we get to see Armand bringing all of the community members outside, and he's like, you know what? I want you to recreate the scene. I want you to recreate where you guys were, what you were doing during the curling match, so that he can get a better idea of what happened to Cece and whether or not someone might have seen what happened. And Ruth is like, do we really have to do this? And Armand is like, yeah. Do it now. So Yvette is very, very excited to be part of everything that's happening, and Isabel, her name's Isabel, right? Isabel is helping her too, and Jean is like, well, you don't need to help her because the boss will think that she's worth keeping. And Isabel is like, really, are you threatened that she's going to come for your job? I was like, that was a nice joke. So Cece's husband decided to bring Cree to the place too, and yeah, Armand is like, you really don't need to bring your kid here, but he's like, no, Cree wanted to see, she wants closure, so Armand is like, okay, she can stay. So this is where Armand is like, okay, so I guess this makes sense that when the person was able to connect the jump cables to the chair that Cece was sitting in, no one must have noticed him because all of them were focused on the game that was being played, because Bia ended up doing something great during the game. I guess she scored a point. So yeah, Armand is like, okay, so now it makes sense that, yeah, no one would have seen what had happened to Cece. And this is where Armand is like, you know what, at first I was like, maybe all of them worked together in order to kill her, but considering how everything played out, I think that this could have been done by a single person. And yeah, this is where they also question that, okay, so we know that how the culprit was able, or the murderer was able to connect the generator to the metal chair, but how did they know that Cece would take her gloves off? What was that about? So Yvette, Isabel, and Armand are having a lunch, and they're talking about Cece's husband, and this is where they find out that, Cece's husband, Richard, was born into a lot of money, and then there's also this insurance thing that Cece had life insurance, and they're like, you know what, we need to look into Richard's finances, and also it turns out that Richard has these patents for electrical devices, so he would know how to make a normal metal chair into an electrocution chair. So yeah, Armand is like, Yvette, I need you to go ahead and do a background check on his finances. And she's like, yep, I'll do it right now. And I was like, well, you could at least finish off your food, you're almost done. And while Yvette's gone to look up Richard's finances, this is where Armand and Isabel talk about Cece's actual parentage. They're like, you know what, it turns out that Isabel has been trying to figure out who her parents are, but yeah, it's a blank. No one knows who Cece's actual parents were. And this is where Armand is like, you know what? She did take the BCom thing from Bia, right? Maybe Bia would know. So he's like, yeah, I need to go and talk to Bia. Bia is making tea, and she's like, okay, chief investigator, do you need some tea? He's like, yep. And this is where these two end up talking about Cece, and he's like, have you read her book and whatnot? And she's like, yeah, I've read her book. It makes no sense, and. It's basically, as far as Bia is concerned, you're going to cause yourself serious psychological damage if you decide to bend everything up and not reveal it. And yeah, these two get to talking, and then the conversation moves to what Bia believes in. And Armand is like, are you Christian? And she's like, no, I'm not Christian, but I do believe. I believe in nature, I believe in spirits, I believe in how all of us are connected. And she's like, you know what, because when it comes to organized religion, it ended up doing a lot of damage to my people. So yeah, I'm kind of scarred about it. And then she asks about Armand's beliefs, and Armand is like, yeah, I believe in God, but I don't necessarily need the church or a priest to feel closer to God. Also, the conversation turned to religion and beliefs, because Armand ended up noticing one of the sayings that Bia had posted up above a door. Something about be calm or something. It's not an actual line from the Bible, from what I know, but it's just something that Bia ended up, I guess, it's basically a quote about being calm and everything. This is where Bia notices that Armand dropped a feather off the blue jay, and he's like, yeah, I keep it close to remind me of someone. And yeah, again, the entire indigenous thing happening, the main narrative plot line, I'm really interested in seeing how the writers are going to handle all of that, because from what I remember, that particular storyline wasn't a part of the novels, the original novels, but it works. It really works. So yeah, coming back to the signage that Bia had in her establishment, we see Armand talking to his wife, and yeah, she's like, no, it's wrong. It's be still and know that I am God. So basically, we get an explanation about why Armand thought that was an actual religious goat that Bia had up, and how that ended up changing because of how Bia wanted to change it. And then we get to see that, of course, Blue Two Rivers' mother is still protesting. She's still trying to figure out where her daughter is. And as a mother, I think that she can really feel. She can feel that something terribly bad happened to her daughter, and she wants closure. She just wants someone to help her find her daughter. So Armand and Isabel talk about the jacket that they saw Blue Two Rivers wear in that picture, and Isabel is like, you know what, I have a denim jacket. I have it, but I wouldn't be wearing it during a particular month when that picture was likely taken. And Armand is like, but we still can't be sure. We still don't know if she's alive or she's dead. And yeah, this is the Blue Two River thing is a case that I guess will continue throughout this season. As far as Jean is concerned, he's been keeping an eye on the photographer, and he notices the photographer burning some stuff, and of course he goes and stops him, he tackles him to the ground, and he brings him to the headquarters to be questioned. But before Jean brings the photographer to the headquarters, we get to see Armand and Isabel talk about how there was niacin present in Cece's drink. It's like vitamin B3, but people use it to detox, and a higher concentration of niacin can cause a hot flash. So yeah, whoever murdered Cece, they made sure that her drink had niacin in it, so that she gets a hot flash, and she takes the gloves off and she touches the metal chair. And then we again talk about Cece's actual parents, and it turns out that she's been lying about her parents. And in the book, it's her parents are French, Eleanor and Henry de Poitiers, which, yeah, no. So Armand and John end up questioning the photographer about why he was burning all of the pictures. So those pictures were private pictures, and Armand was like, were you going to use those to blackmail Cece? And he's like, no, I would never. I loved Cece and yada yada yada. And he was also like, well, I'm still married to my wife. I don't love her, but I respect her. And Armand shut that down quickly. I really like that scene. He was like, no, any man who cheats on his wife, he doesn't respect his wife, so don't go fooling yourself saying that you respect your wife. You don't. They ask him about Cece's parents, and he doesn't necessarily know either. However, he does know that Cece didn't like her mom, and that her mom was basically a monster to her. So after talking to the photographer, they're like, you know what? He was way too much in love with Cece, so he couldn't have killed her. So we need to focus on the coffee thing. And from the pictures that the photographer ended up giving them, they figure out that it was Richard who handed Cece the coffee. So and in the picture, he's shown adding something into the coffee. It could be sugar, it could be niacin, but yeah, they need to talk to Richard. They also wonder if one of the old ladies in Three Pines might be Cece's mother. I mean, the ages check out, but again, they're like, you know what, if the crazy duck lady, basically Ruth, is her mother, I don't blame her for keeping it a secret. Armand then gets a call from his friend, and it turns out that Blue Two Rivers was involved in meth dealing, drug dealing, and he wants that information to be shared with Blue Two Rivers' mom in hopes that she'll stop protesting. And Armand is like, "Well, thank you. I guess I'll go and talk to her." And yeah, the conversation doesn't play the way that Armand was expecting, because Blue's mom just refuses to accept that her daughter was into drugs. Again, as far as her mom is concerned, she feels that something very, very bad happened to Blue, and she feels that, I guess, she's dead or something, and she just feels helpless because, again, the police isn't helping her. She doesn't know where her daughter is. No one is believing her when she says that her daughter wasn't the type of person to get involved in drugs, and that as far as Missy is concerned, Blue was kidnapped, which, you know what, it would make sense. A whole lot of women do get kidnapped, and after they get kidnapped, they don't know how to get away, so they continue getting involved into whatever nefarious things their kidnapper wants them to get involved in. We get a scene where Armand is walking towards the bistro, and this is where he gets a vision of Blue again, and Blue is like, "You're looking at the wrong place." And he's like, "For who? For your killer?" She's like, "No, for your killer, the current case that you're working on. You have to listen to the silence." So Yvette comes back in, and she ends up sharing everything that she found out about Richard's finances. So it turns out that he ended up losing a lot of money, and they were living way beyond their means. And yeah, again, that insurance thing. Richard is the one who's going to get a lot of money. It's like, basically, I guess Cece's insurance was like close to $1 million. So Jean and Armand go to talk to Richard about the insurance, and Richard is like, yes, I got the insurance documents, but it still doesn't mean that I wanted to kill her. I hated her, I was miserable being married to her, but I didn't kill her. So the crew is still working on the case, because Armand is like, we need solid evidence, the insurance thing is circumstantial, and Armand ends up giving everyone a job to do except for Jean, which, again, I guess that Jean is really going to feel very, very unneeded, and he might end up resenting Yvette, but I really hope that doesn't happen, because, again, John can find something to do. They need a four-person team, especially when one person, Nicole, she still needs a lot to learn. So Armand is like, Isabel, I got a notice again that Blue's mom is out there protesting again, and it's very cold, so why don't you go pick her up and take her home? Can you do that? And Isabel is like, yeah, I can do that. Armand ends up talking to this old woman called Amelia, I guess? And Amelia ends up sharing her backstory with Armand about how she lost her daughter and husband during a blizzard 18 years ago, and that she's supposed to be, that a mother is supposed to protect their child, but she couldn't, and yeah, she's been missing her daughter and husband for all those years. And she also tells Armand that he can't possibly begin to feel how she feels about having to bury two people she loved the most in her life. And I'm like, well, he did lose his parents, right? So I guess he had to bury his parents. Ooh, also, I just remembered, it wasn't 18 years ago. She lost her husband and daughter 30 years ago. Yeah, it's not 18, 30. And we get a flashback of Armand losing his parents and holding a little bird feather, so I guess he's always been into birds or something. And then Yvette comes onto the scene, and yeah, Yvette, even though she has a lot to learn, she has the skills to be an investigator, because she's like, you know what, I was wondering that the most important thing to Cece was her book, right? But which book? The first edition, of course. So she ended up going through the first edition of Cece's book, and that's where she ended up figuring out that Cece's mom was named E something, and this is where Armand is like, well, you know what? Always listen to your gut, detective. And also, he's like, yep, her mom was Amelia. Something, something, something. And yeah, the same Amelia, the old woman that Armand was recently talking to. And Armand does confront her, and this is where we find out that no, she wasn't Cece's mom, she was Cece's aunt. Cece's mom was her sister, Eleanor. And yeah, things were bad for Cece when she was a child, because it turns out that when she was 10 years old, her mom lost her temper, and she ended up wrecking everything in the house. She also attacked Cece, and that traumatized Cece because her mom had to be taken away, and Cece had to be handed over to her dad, who wasn't a good man. And after Cece grew up, Cece came to Three Pines, and yeah, Amelia thought that this would be a second chance to reconnect with Cece. But no, Cece wasn't looking for for a family, and she also didn't let Amelia have a relationship with Cree, and yeah, it was bad. Basically, Cece wanted her aunt to keep their relationship a secret. And we also get to find out that Richard and Cree don't know that she's basically Cece's aunt, and yeah, that's because that's what Cece wanted to be kept secret. And also, Armand decides to justify Cece's attitude, her personality, and yeah, Amelia's like, you're the type of person who always sees the good and the worst of humanity, don't you? And Armand is like, yeah, that's who I am. Armand still has more questions to ask her, but she's like, I'm tired, I need to go home, we'll talk about this tomorrow. But the expression that she had on her face, I was like, no, she's going to do something. She is going to end her life. Keep an eye on her. And then we get this emotional scene between Missy and Isabel. And again, Missy is like, you guys aren't helping us. And as a mom, I'm supposed to protect my child, and I couldn't protect my child. And I know that Blue is dead. Even though you keep on saying that she's alive and she's into drugs, she is dead. You have to believe me. And yeah, she refuses to go. She's just like, no, I'm going to stay outside. And this is where Isabel does get a call from Armand, and Armand is like, hey, there's a blizzard coming, so stay in the city, don't drive back. And then we get to see Armand going over the friends group and taking their first letters of their name. And this is where he comes to the conclusion that BKLM thing, which is again those were the letters that the old woman, Cece's mom, had tattooed on her arm. And this is where Armand ends up confronting B. He's like, you need to tell me the truth, B. You adapted that saying, you personalized it, you were very, very close. You knew Cece's mom, you knew her aunt, you knew everything. Why didn't you share this information with me? And this is where Armand is like, well, B, don't leave Three Pines. Stay here, because again, you are a suspect. So it's the next day, and Armand wants to talk to Amelia, and yeah, Yvette was stationed outside Amelia's house to keep an eye on her, but of course Yvette slept on the job. It happens, and Jean and Armand race into Amelia's house, and at first I was like, wait, are they going to see her dead body hanging from the ceiling or something, or in the bathtub? But no. She did record a video message for them, and in the video message, she ended up confessing to everything. She's like, yep, I'm the one who ended up killing Cece. I'm the one who did the metal chair thing. I'm the one who put the washer fluid on the ice. I'm the one who put the niacin into her coffee. But she did leave out one major detail that will come back around. And they're like, you know what? We have to find where she went. And Armand, of course, he runs to B, and he's like, B, you need to tell me where she is. You have to tell me. I have to help her. And B is like, well, I guess she's off to see her husband and daughter. That's where she goes. And at first I was like, is Amelia dead? Emily dead? But no, she's still alive. Armand was able to get to her in time, and she was sent to the hospital, and according to the doctors, she will make it. Isabel and Armand talk about why Emily would do all of this, and they're like, yep, imagine a love so great you would throw away your own life just for it. And again, Armand is like, yeah, I would do that. I would do that for my granddaughter. We again get to see the Frankenstein thing with Armand, which again will come back into play as this case concludes. So after Emily has confessed, they're like, okay, so the case is closed, right? And Yvette is like, well, the case is closed, so can I keep these shoes? They are amazing. And I was like, a woman was electrocuted in those shoes, Nicole. What the heck are you saying? But yeah, she's like, well, they're cool. I want them. And they have like those metal studs. No one would know unless they like turn them over. And Armando's like, yep. You can't see the metal claws unless you turn them over. Emily didn't know that these boots had metal claws. She didn't mention the metal claws in her confession video. Oh, so that means that it wasn't Emily who murdered Cece. And I was like, yep, at this point of the episode, I was like, yeah, I can see what's happening here. And dun, we find out that the person who killed Cece was actually Cree. She's the one who killed her own mother. A year ago, she saw her own mom kill her own mom, her grandmother basically, and that's why she was like, okay, so I guess that's how you fix such problems, huh? Her mom, Cece hated her mom, and Cree hated her mom, so Cree decided to take matters into her own hands and decided to kill Cece. And as far as the metal chair electrocution thing is concerned, she learned a lot from her dad, Richard, and yeah, this is where she's like, will I go to prison? Oh, and also she ended up learning that Emily was her aunt after Cece died, but by that point it was way too late. So she's like, will I go to prison? And Armand is like, well, I hope not, because again, Armand realizes that Cree is just a child, and what she did was because of trauma, and what she thought was the right thing, because again, she saw her mother do the same thing, basically. And we get to see Armand and his crew watch as Cree is being taken by the police, and this is where, again, the Frankenstein thing comes back again, where he's like, well, Cree, in a sense, was the Frankenstein monster created by the trauma and the bullying and everything that was inflicted on her because of her mom and her mom, basically the generational trauma thing. And the episode basically ends with Armand driving away from Cree Pines, and he sees the Blue Jay again, which is basically, according to B, that's a sign of clarity, and again, the Blue Two River thing is going to continue. Missy, I guess she can't handle all of the pain anymore, and she decides to take her own life. She goes up to a building and she's ready to jump. Armand notices it. He rushes up to the building. He tries to stop her, but she's like, no, I won't stop. And she jumps from the building. She kills herself. And yeah, Armand needs to do something about this. He really does. He really needs to actually close the Blue Two River case. But yeah, that was episode number 2. A very, very strong 2-episode beginning to a new murder mystery show. And the actors are great. Alfred Manila is amazing. We all know that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what other case that he's going to handle. Because again, I really thought that the CC case was going to be the entire season. But no, it's not. So I guess we should be ready for another murder happening quite soon. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you thought of the episode down in the comment section below. And until next time, stay happy, stay safe, stay blessed. See you guys later. Bye.